I'm originally from the Dinaka Nation in Cranbrook. I left my community to come to university here at UBC and decided to stay in the city. There are two reasons why I decided to stay. I think if you know the history of Aboriginal people in Canada, we were all living on reserves, so it was an opportunity for me to leave the reserve and to make a new life for myself. With all of the issues that faced my generation of Aboriginal people who had lived through the residential schools, and I had spent 10 years in residential school, so it was a new beginning. It was searching out and to ground myself in life. I think that's something that was really important to me. It was common to be going to funerals and services, for Aboriginal people from across the province, in fact, across Canada. But being able to recognize there was something hitting our communities, I think, and that's when I became involved as a volunteer. And in 1995, I was working in Victoria at the time. I was called to St. Paul's. We hadn't even known that my brother was HIV positive. Doctor told me that your brother's been positive for 10 years and he hadn't taken any medicines, and he died telling us he was HIV positive. Stigma and discrimination, I think, played a key factor when my brother wasn't able to talk about it for all those years. We need to look at the history of Aboriginal people in Canada, I think, as a starting point. When you look at the influences of colonization, the residential schools, foster care, poverty, all those social determinants have had a very negative impact on Aboriginal communities. Those are key to why a lot of our Aboriginal people have become infected by HIV. In my role as a school trustee for Vancouver, as the first Aboriginal person to be elected to municipal politics, that's one of the issues that I keep coming back to. In order for our kids in the public school system to succeed, there needs to be a recognition that some of those historical issues really impact families whose kids are kids who are in our school system. So when you look at issues about and for Aboriginal people, there's always that connection that needs to be made. So I started actually at Healing Our Spirit in 1998, and I was with Healing Our Spirit for 12 years. Healing Our Spirit provided advocacy, support, counseling services to Aboriginal people throughout the province. I think it was actually an eye-opener, because I know at the time when I was at Healing Our Spirit, there was still that anomaly between non-Aboriginal and Aboriginal services, and there was always talk that, again, here we were being marginalized and not having the resources to provide the services for Aboriginal people throughout the province. I think number two was the fact that our Aboriginal leadership were very ignorant about HIV, and I think that was the bottom line. Aboriginal leadership was always ignoring and always pretending that there was not an issue. But the reality hit home always when our leadership, close relatives were impacted or a family member was infected by HIV. Our leadership in Aboriginal communities need to understand that the men and women who have been affected and infected by HIV are part of our whole communities. In '98, the federal government brought together Aboriginal people, and Aboriginal people have been at the forefront of policy development across Canada. We at the Canadian Aboriginal AIDS Network are key to the development of HIV/AIDS policy across Canada. I think that's been a great contribution in terms of where the HIV/AIDS movement has gone throughout the years. People who live with HIV are those who I look up to as leaders and who have shared their story, and I think they're the important people in terms of the HIV/AIDS movement. I recognize that there's physicians, I recognize There are professionals who have led the fight in HIV, but I always look to those who live with HIV as the teachers and the warriors who have shared their stories and who have made great sacrifices in more ways than one.